Hello there, Monstars. Welcome to our next flip video. In this video, we are going to be subtracting across zeros. So we're going to take everything that we've learned about subtracting with regrouping, and we're going to look at problems that have zeros in our top number. So let's look at this first problem. We have 100 minus 97. Now, what we learned about subtracting in our previous flip video is that when you look at your ones column, if you have more on the floor, you go next door and get 10 more. Well, in this problem, there's nothing next door. What do we do when that happens? How do we solve that? Let's think about what this problem looks like in base 10 blocks. So this top number, 100, in base 10 blocks would look like this, 100 flat. We're going to need to regroup this 100 flat, and we're going to need to change it into tens so that we can add something to our tens column. So let's think about this 100 flat. If I broke that apart and changed it into tens, how many tens would I have? I hope that you said 10. There are 10 rods in this 100 flat. So when I remember our rhyme, look at the floor. There's more on the floor, go next door. I can't go next door. I have to go next door again. And what that will look like is I'm going to take my 100 flat and I'm going to turn it into 10 tens. So my 100 flat, if I broke it apart, I would now have 10 tens. So now that I have 10 tens, if I do my rhyme again, look at the floor. More on the floor, go next door. Now I have 10 tens that I can work with. And I can subtract like I normally would. Borrowing a 10, leaving 9, and changing that 10 rod that I just borrowed into 10 units. And then we can proceed and subtract like we've learned. 10 minus 7 is 3. 9 minus 9 is 0. I don't need to put anything down. And I took away my 100. I regrouped it as 10 tens. So I have no hundreds left. So 100 minus 97 would equal 3. Now remember, we also learned that we should always check our problems by adding. By taking our answer and adding it to the number that we subtracted. So we take 3 and we add it to 97. And when we add those together, 3 plus 7 is 10. I put down my 0, carry my 1. 1 plus 9 is 10. And I end up with 100, which is the number that I started with. So I know that 3 is the correct answer. Okay, on this problem, I'd like you to try to solve this problem on your own. My problem is 200 minus 46. Look at your ones place. You have more on the floor. You have to go next door, but you do not have any tens. You're going to have to borrow from your 100 to solve this problem. So pause the video. When you're ready, I want you to hit play. All right, so when we solve our problem, we have more on the floor. We had to go next door. There was nothing next door, so we have to go all the way to our hundreds. We're going to borrow 100, leaving 100 left. We're going to take the 100 we borrowed and we're going to turn it into 10 rods. Now we can go next door. We can borrow from our 10 rods, leaving 9 behind, and take the 1 10 rod that we borrowed from our tens place and change that into 10 units. When we solve, we have 10 minus 6 equals 4, and 9 minus 4 equals 5. We have 100 left. 1 minus 0 equals 1. So our answer was 154, but I'm going to check to make sure that I have the correct answer by checking by adding. And when I do that, I have 4 plus 6, which equals 10, carry my 1. 1 plus 5 plus 4 equals 10, carry a 1, and 1 plus 1 equals 2. So since I ended up with 200 and I began with 200, 154 is the correct answer. Okay, now I'm going to show you a trick that you can use when you're subtracting across zeros. Some people find this a little bit easier. But I'm going to teach you both ways, and really I'm going to leave it up to you which way that you want to use. I want you to use the method that you find easiest to solve these problems. The way that I just taught you, the algorithm way, that's the way that I grew up learning. This is a way that I just learned recently that I really like, and some people find it a little bit easier. This is called our box trick. And I bet you'll be able to infer why it's called the box trick in just a second. So, in the box trick, you think of not just what's in the hundreds place, but you think of 200 as a number and how it's represented in base 10. So in base 10, you represent 200 as 200 flats. Well, in our box trick, we look at how many tens make up 200. Remember, in the number 200, I want you to think about how many tens are in the number 200? You could even count them up if you needed to. If you answered 20, you are correct. And when we take our 200 flats and we split them apart into 10 rods, we have 20 10 rods. And we could count them. Take a second to count them just to make sure we have 20. Make sure Miss Sullivan didn't make a mistake. Now, the reason this is important, because when we try to solve our problem, we look at the floor, we have more on the floor, we need to go next door. Now, instead of thinking about nothing being in our tens column, if we can think of 200 as being 20 tens, then what we can do is we can take away one of our 20 tens and regroup that as units to help us solve this problem. So when I take away one 10 rod, I'm taking it away, and I'm going to regroup that one 10 rod as 10 units. That means that I have 19 10 rods left, because 20 minus 1 is 19. So instead of having 20 tens, I now have 19. And now I can solve my problem like before. 10 minus 7 equals 3. 9 minus 5 equals 4. And in my hundreds column, 1 take away nothing equals 1. And I always check by adding to make sure I got the correct answer. 143 plus 57. 3 plus 7 is 10. Regroup my tens. 1 plus 4 plus 5 is 10. Regroup my hundreds. 1 plus 1 is 2. I ended up with 200. I started with 200. So 143 is the correct answer. Now I want you to look at 500 minus 326. And I want you to try to solve it using the box method. So the first thing we do is we think about the number 500. And how many tens are in the number 500? Well, how many tens are in 500? There's a 10. There's 10 tens for every 100. If we count by tens, we get 50. If I need to regroup one of those tens into my ones column so that I can subtract, I need to take 1 10 away from 50. So what's 50 minus 1? The answer is 49. And I'm going to take the 10 that I took away. I'm going to change it into units. So that gives me 10 units. And now I have 10 minus 6, which equals 4. 9 minus 2, which equals 7. And 4 minus 3, which equals 1. And as always, I check by adding just to make sure. We should never miss a subtraction problem because we're always going to check by adding. I take my answer of 174 and I add it to what I took away, 326. 4 plus 6 is 10. Down my 0, carry my 1. 1 plus 7 plus 2 is 10. Down my 0, carry my 1. 1 plus 1 plus 3 is 5. And since I ended up with what I began with, 174 is the correct answer. Okay, I've given you two problems here. I want you to decide if you want to use the box method or our algorithm method, which is the method we'd used first to solve these problems. It's your choice. Like I told you before in the video, it's up to you which method you want to use, but I want you, whichever method you use, make sure you do it correctly and always check by adding to make sure you have the right answer. So when you're ready, I want you to push pause, solve both these problems, and then push play when you're ready. We'll go through them. Okay, the first problem we're going to look at is 900 minus 263. And on this problem, I'm going to use the algorithm method. So what I do is I look at my ones column, I look at the floor. There's more on the floor, so I need to go next door. There's nothing next door, so I'm going next door again. I'm going to take my 900s, I'm going to take one of my hundreds away, leaving me with 8. I'm going to take that 100, I'm going to regroup it as 10 tens. Now when I try to solve for my ones column, I see that I have more on the floor. I have to go next door. I have 10 tens. So I'm going to take away one of my tens, and I'm going to regroup that as 10 units. Now I can solve my problem. 10 minus 3 in my ones column is 7. 9 minus 6 in my tens column is 3. 8 minus 2 in my hundreds column is 6. I'm going to check by adding just to make sure I got it correct. I didn't give myself much space to write, so I'm going to use my current problem to check by adding. So I'm going to take 3 plus 7, and that's going to give me 10. 1 plus 6 plus 3 gives me 10 again. 1 plus 2 plus 6 gives me 9, and 900 is the number I started with, so 637 is the correct answer. Now when I move on to my next problem, 700 minus 23, I'm going to use the box method this time to save me a step. So I'm going to look at 700. I'm going to box my tens, which is, I have 70 tens in the number 700. I'm going to take one of those tens away, and the 10 I took away, I'm going to regroup it as 10 units. So now I can solve 10 minus 3 equals 7. 9 minus 2 in my tens column equals 7. And 6 take away nothing in my hundreds column equals 6. I'm going to check by adding to make sure I got the correct answer. 7 plus 3 is 10. I carry my 1. 1 plus 2 plus 7 is 10. Carry my 1. 1 plus 6 is 7. I got 700 as an answer. 700 is what I started with. So my answer of 677 is correct. So when you're subtracting across zeros, you have two methods that you can choose from. You can choose our algorithm method, or you can choose our box method. It's up to you which one you want to do, but either one is effective, and you know you can always make sure that you 100% have the correct answer if you check by adding. So let's finish with a joke. Your joke is, where do pencils go for vacation? Where do pencils go for vacation? Make sure you have your whisk complete. You turn it in on its due date. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Goodbye.